Hello, glad to have you here. Let's study this triple charge stacking Winter Orb Slayer build together. With Slayer's Masterful Form, your maximum endurance charges are equal to your maximum frenzy charges. With Badge of the Brotherhood, your maximum frenzy charges are equal to your maximum power charges. By stacking only maximum power charges, you're granted all the other charges too. To do so, equip Void Battery, Malachi's Loop, a rare or corrupted unique helmet, and a pair of good rings. You can reach up to 12 maximum charges this way, but in our case, it was only 10. Rings are expensive. To have all of these charges up at all times, you shall wear Ralakesh's Impatience Boots. Slayers rarely use spells as their passives, and the skill tree starting location are tailored to suit an attack playstyle more, but he does have Bane of Legends, Headsman, and Brutal Fervor, which will work with spells just as well. These have some great offensive and defensive utilities. The build has great damage thanks to Critica Strike chance from Power Charge, raw damage and cast speed from Frenzy Charges, and physical damage reduction with elemental resistances from Endurance Charges. On top of that, you can have Brutal Charges for a chance to deal triple damage. Almost any skill will benefit from these stats, and Winter Orbs seems like a good candidate. Its projectiles can shotgun a single enemy if you have enough area of effect, which can be conveniently scaled up with power charges and vast power notables from medium cluster jewels. The character's durability derives from endurance charges, a lot of life regeneration from Replica Restless Ward, Life Leech, capped spell block chance with Tempest Shield and Will Clash, and Fortify. With Purity of Elements, you're immune to all elemental ailments. Clear speed is very good. You can dash with shield charge very fast. Your attack speed is increased with frenzy charges after all. Boss damage is comparable to any other charge stacking build. With Headsman, you will cull bosses as they reach a fifth of their maximum life. High-end rings and jewels can be expensive, but the build we've showcased was made on a shoestring budget. The items can be pricey at the start of a new league. With Purity of Elements, Endurance Charges, and some additional attributes and resistances from jewels, it's possible to equip the character exclusively with unique items. Nevertheless, we recommend using rare gloves and rings for that purpose. Most of the mandatory uniques are cheap, so scout for favorable corrupted implicit modifiers. Will Clash is used for increased elemental damage and to cap spell block chance after combining with Tempest Shield. It's very cheap. Try to corrupt it for one additional maximum power charge. Heat Shiver grants tons of additional fire damage sourced from cold damage. It has little to no defenses. If you plan to use it, replace your Frostbite Curse with Elemental Weakness. Void Battery provides you with one additional maximum power charge, increased damage per power charge, increased cast speed, and crit chance for spells. Malachi's Loop is used mainly for 2 additional maximum power charges and increased spell damage per power charge. With Ralakesh's Impatience, the downside will not apply. Replica Restless Ward increases movement speed and regenerates a lot of life. It has no downsides in this configuration. You should corrupt it for a chance of increasing the gem level of Winter Orb. Ralakesh's Impatience Boots keep your character charged up. The build will not function properly without them. Surge Binders. These gloves are not particularly good, but there's still a lot of damage here due to the overabundance of the charges you have. Arn's Anguish has good base stats, but its main selling point are Brutal Charges, which may triple your damage. That's a 3% chance of dealing triple damage per Brutal Charge. With Badge of the Brotherhood, your maximum frenzy charges are equal to your maximum power charges. You will then carry on this charge cap to endurance charges via Masterful Form passive. Precursor's Emblem with 1 maximum power charge would be perfect, but you have tons of all kinds of charges, so nearly any Precursor's Emblem will improve your build. You may find mods such as Chaos Resistance, Crit Chance, Cold Damage as extra Chaos damage, Movement Speed, Life Regeneration, Flask Charge on Critical Strike, Physical Damage Reduction, Additional Maximum Curse, or Crit Multiplier per charge. The Dominus's variant of Militant Faith shall transform one of your keystones into Inner Conviction for 3% more spell damage per power charge with no downside. You could go for 1 additional maximum power charge with the Discipline variant of the Sublime Vision, but sacrificing all your other auras for one that's not even good is questionable. You're using Zealotry, Purity of Elements, and Hatred. With Watcher's Eye, Zealotry and Hatred may grant you elemental penetration and crit chance, both of which are great offensive boons, while Purity of Elements may provide you with up to 50% chaos resistance. Your focus should be on extending the maximum power charge limit, seeking stats that scale up with charges, capping crit chance, getting more critical strike multiplier, and increasing the gem level of Winter Orb. Life Leech can be found on a large cluster jewel, while ES Leech is easily obtained by spending one passive skill point on an ES Leech node. You will need some extra strength and intelligence from gear. A Warlord Blizzard Crown with one additional maximum power charge could be the best in slot helmet, but it's also quite expensive. Here you can look for maximum life and other various offensive and defensive stats. You can equip rare gloves to gain more maximum life, attributes, resistances, and increased damage with some of the more rare modifiers. For the Eldritch mods, seek chance to unnerve on hit and increased effect of your marks. Rings are the expensive part of the build. Try to get a ring with one maximum power charge for the implicit, maximum life, attributes, and resistances. Maximum life and critical strike multiplier for cold or elemental spells is what should be prioritized on jewels. Attributes and resistances can also be useful. Blast Freeze and Blanketed Snow notables can be found on cold damage large cluster jewels. One Doriani's Lesson for Life Leech may be there too. We have used 2 such jewels. Vast Power and Magnifier from medium cluster jewels will increase your area of effect. If your AoE is good enough, look for critical strike jewels with mods like Basics of Pain and Precise Retaliation. The 2 additional projectiles from Dying Sun Flask are very desirable. It should also help you sustain Righteous Fire. You will probably need some extra critical strike chance to reach the 100% cap, so Bottled Faith can be a great addition. There's also Consecrated Ground and more damage. You will also need 1 life flask that stops bleeding, and a diamond, silver, or quicksilver flasks. Their suffixes will increase your crit chance, cast speed, and attack or movement speed. Winter Orb deals cold damage with projectiles. It is good because you can quickly charge it up, it scales with AoE and cast speed, and you don't have to stop moving to deal damage. Link it with greater multiple projectiles, power charge on critical, ice bite, infused channeling, and level 5 awakened cold penetration to apply cold exposure on hit. Select Hatred for more cold damage with spells. You could swap it for Grace for slightly better durability, use Tempest Shield for additional spell block chance, and to shock enemies. We have used Purity of Elements for elemental ailment immunity and elemental resistances. It makes gearing up much easier. With level 4, Enlighten you won't need any additional reservation efficiency. Corrupt one of your unique gear pieces to increase its level. With Herald of Ice, clear speed is much better. It adds cold damage to spells and shatters frozen enemies on kill. Enemy marked with Sniper's Mark takes increased projectile damage. Sniper's Mark is applied automatically on hit against rare and unique enemies with Mark on hit support, but it forces you to use Shield Charge. Steelskin stops bleeding and absorbs some incoming hit damage. Link it with Cast when damage taken to trigger it after taking a certain amount of damage. Enduring Cry generates brutal charges and regenerates life. Link it with Call to Arms to trigger it automatically whenever it's off cooldown. Shield Charge is the mobility skill you will use to move around faster. Link it with faster attacks and Fortify support. Generating Fortify stacks is not an issue. Use Zealotry for more spell damage and increased critical strike chance for spells. It can create a consecrated ground on hit against rare or unique enemies. Link it with Divine Blessing support. With Whispers of Doom or a certain precursor's emblem, you can apply 1 additional curse. Frostbite lowers cold resistance. It's an obvious choice. You should be able to sustain regular RF, but if that's not the case, use Val RF for more spell damage. If you can spare 2 sockets for Withering Step, we recommend doing so. It grants you the elusive buff, the effect of which is magnified due to the Badge of the Brotherhood. Link it with Automation if you can. Kill all 3 bandits for the 2 extra passive skill points. The Soul of Lunaris seems good. It grants physical damage reduction per nearby enemy, protects you from projectiles, and reduces elemental damage taken if you have been hit recently. The Soul of Rislatha is a good minor god. It grants life flask charges, increases life recovery rate from flasks on low life, and reduces life regeneration rate of enemies. The passive skill tree lets you grab all 3 Disciple notables and forces you to travel up for the infused and instability. Overcharge is gained via Amulet Anointment. Spending skill points on cluster jewels stretches the skill tree, which seems now downright skeletal. Spend the remaining points on maximum life, reservation efficiency, and spell crit damage. Your keystones are Eldritch Battery and Inner Conviction. Your masteries are Life Mastery for 50 extra life, Charge Mastery for 3% increased damage per charge, Critical Mastery for plus 25%, Crit Multiplier against unique enemies, and Mana Mastery for reservation efficiency. That's all. Thank you for staying till the end. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and see you soon.